Welcome. This is our Differentiated Monitoring System Level 3 support. My name is Tina Spence with State Department Special Ed, and here in a little bit, Ginger Elliott-Teague will also provide some information regarding the data to help you fully understand all of that. I want to also make sure that you are aware that this presentation, along with the recording, will be posted hopefully later this week, if not later this week, sometime next week, on our State Department of Ed website. It will be under News and Memos, and if you go to that page and scroll down, there is a training section. It will be posted under there for you to review at any time that you need to refer back to this information. All right, so our agenda today is to talk about differentiated monitoring. We're going to talk about the required activities, and expectations, and review some of the deadlines so that you know what's expected and where to go complete those activities, and then some information related to where the data comes from so that you can fully understand where we are getting the information so you know where to go back to figure out what's going on with your data and with your district and how to improve. So, differentiated monitoring system, we use this to expand our state monitoring of the district's performances in two areas. We look at physical risk to the state and then student outcomes. So this is an expansion that meets our federal intent. So when we are looking at it, it's required to assess subgrantees' risk to the state educational agencies because we report information federally, so we need to make sure that we're compliant in that way. And then we are moving toward a results-based accountability system. So that's our goal and where we're heading with all of this information. So in our differentiated monitoring results, or DMR, we are looking at your risk score and your determination rating. When we look at those two, depending on how you fall, every district is given a level of support. So you're assigned a level of support, and then you are notified of that in November. This last time we emailed and then mailed the information out on November 15th for you to know where you were at on that. If you're wanting additional information on understanding exactly the breakdown of the risk scores, the determination ratings, and how we get to the levels of support, the General Supervision Manual is on the compliance website page that will also break this down and give you lots of good information related to that. So, what is Level 3 support? So if you're on this webinar, you already know that you're a Level 3 support here. There are 4 levels of support, one being not needing a lot of interventions, doing pretty good, all the way down to 4, meaning we need a lot of assistance. So you're at Level 3, and the districts for either a risk Tier 3, a moderate risk, or determination Level 3 of needing intervention. We had 13 districts this year that are at Level 3. Last year we had 21, so we're down a little bit from that. This table here is going to be in your General Supervision Manual as well. So this is showing you the different levels of support, your risk levels, your determination levels, and then it'll shows you the improvement activities and monitoring in response to compliance. And then underneath each of those it talks a little bit about what each one of them looks like. So we're going to kind of talk about today for Tier Level 3, your expectations of your self-assessment, professional development, the data retreat, all of that information, as well as a little bit on your on-site monitoring, so you kind of have an idea of what's expected and the timelines for expected completion. So let's break that down a little bit more. We have front-loaded technical assistance, so we're always here to provide technical assistance and support to you guys all the time, all year long, so it doesn't have to be just when you're a Level 3. But we've got some great staff here that can help in many different areas. So always feel free to give us a call or send us an email for any supports and guidance that you may need. Targeted technical assistance, meaning technical assistance targeted to any area which you were identified and needing some additional supports. self-assessments. We will talk a little bit about what that looks like and how that is going to be submitted and what we're looking for. And your professional development modules and how those should be tied to your area of the area that has identified you as a level 3, as well as your self-assessments in what areas of improvement. So all that should be linked. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll give you some information on the data retreat that you should have already have signed up and registered at this time, but if not, we need to make sure that we get everybody registered for that, and your improvement plan and targeted on-site monitorings. So again, if you've not registered for the data retreat, please make sure that you do so. This is a requirement for level 3. You must attend. You need a general ed and a special ed representative. So each district should have 2 people, a minimum of 2 people registering to attend. We are looking to make sure that there is a gen ed representative attending with you so that they can give information related to the general ed side and completely understand that and assist you as you implement any improvement activities. Lodging and travel, we will assist you through any of that to make sure that that is taken care of financially to help pay for it. Determine your topic areas needed of improvement. So we're going to have a webinar on January 15th that I highly encourage you to register for as soon as we send that. Oh, it's already out. Nope. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking and don't really know what I'm talking about here. So we will be sending out information shortly or soon about the January 15th webinar, specifically talking about the data retreat and how to prepare for that is the intent of that webinar, because that will help you to understand, related to the area that you've been identified, what data might you need to have ready and available, and have some for you and your participant to know what to bring and how to prepare for that. And then there is a download. We will complete the self-assessment paperwork or self-assessment hard copy. Will be uploaded on the State Department website. It will be after the holidays before we have that completely finished and ready for you to upload or ready for you to download and to utilize. But we will give you a paper copy as well as guide you toward where to submit the information electronically. So we are providing you a hard copy to assist your team through that process, but we will need an electronic copy when you are finished. But what you can do right now is start identifying. So you know that you have to do a self-assessment and go through that process. It's kind of similar to what we had last year. So what you can do in the meantime is start identifying who do I need at the table? What is my planning team? So for whatever area it happens to be, who is the most appropriate special ed staff, general ed staff, administrative staff that you might need at the table, and start having some discussions with them to get prepared for looking at those self-assessments. Start thinking about what data might I need to start gathering and look at as well. So we'll be giving you the hard copy and finalizing the online copy of the self-assessments and giving you information. This will all take place after the holidays. But again, once you've completed your self-assessment paper copy, your team has gone through, looked at any necessary data, has come up with and answered all those questions, then you're going to report that information online. When you report that information online, a new piece to this is you're going to have already identified the professional development that is a direct relationship to the area that you've been identified, as well as what your team has determined where your area of concerns are. So for whatever area it happens to be that you've been identified as non-compliant, where's the breakdown? What is it that we need to do to help become compliant or work towards compliance in that area? So where's your starting point? And at that starting point should be, what then professional development do we need to provide to help us move toward compliance in that area? And so when you report that, we're looking at the title of the professional development that you have identified is in need, the date that you're going to be providing it, so we need it to already be on your scheduled as a professional development? And then what audience are we going to make sure is in attendance? Because if we're identified for fiscal, we probably aren't going to need special ed teachers at that one. So it's going to look different. You could decide for assessments that we may want testing coordinators and administrators, or we may just want special ed teachers and gen ed teachers, or just special ed teachers. So who is it that you're intending that professional development to be for? And then also on that is going to be required your improvement plan. So when you do the online self-assessment, you're also doing the PD, but you're also doing your improvement plan in the same document, the same time. So it's going to lay out what is your area of concerns, and then what steps and actions are you going to take to improve in that area. So after you've submitted that online, then you have to complete your professional development and then submit documentation to us. That documentation needs to be in the form of an agenda and sign-in sheets for those staff members. We are going to check to look to make sure that that professional development that you submitted on your online assessment is what you have provided, and that documentation all aligns and matches. Along with all of that is you will receive a targeted on-site monitoring. So what that's going to look like is a letter is going to come out to your district, to your superintendent, letting them know of those expectations as well as the date that we will be on-site monitoring. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And you always, again, request additional technical assistance as desired and continue implementing your improvement plan. So let's talk about that self-assessment. The self-assessment is only as useful as you make it. So it's intended to help you and the appropriate team members that you have selected to assist you with this, to dive into the reasons for the low achievement in a particular area or what's going on in that particular area. So again, you need to rally a team around you that understands and that is important to have at the table, that has a really good interest and is going to help you move to compliance in your area of non-compliance. So think about that now. Who do you need at that table? This self-assessment is not designed for you, just the special ed director, to complete on your own. It's supposed to be a team to do this. And so what we're looking at is there's going to be a list of probing questions. Those probing questions are designed to help you dig down, help you think about where are we in this area of noncompliance. Think about where our district is to help you dig down to figure out where is the breakdown. Where is it that we need to begin change to happen? And then there'll be a conclusion statement that summarizes your district's investigation, utilizing those probing questions. And then an action statement that defines the steps that you're going to need to do to improve in that area. And then again, your proposed professional development requirement there. And we need that professional development requirement to directly relate to that action statement, your improvement plan. There should be a clear connection with your area of need, your conclusion statement, your action statement, your plan, and your professional development. They should all be a good, clear connection through that. And then right down here at the bottom, it tells you where to find it. Now, you can go there right now, but it's not there yet. The self-assessment tool is not there yet. So you're going to find some old self-assessment tools from last year still up on our website. We will be pulling those down. I just want you to know that those are not the same assessments. We have completely scrapped those. We are starting, and we've got some really starting new and coming up with some really effective tools to help you really dig down. So if you go to that website right now, it is not the most current. So please just be aware of that the new ones will not be up until after the holidays. So districts were identified in one of these areas: physical compliance assessment early childhood outcomes, secondary outcomes, which is graduation and dropout. So self-assessments must be completed in an area of need. So if you were identified for secondary outcomes, we are not looking for you to complete a physical self-assessment. We want you to complete the secondary outcome self-assessment for the one that you were identified as non-compliant in. So your improvement plan. The purpose is to encourage the district to think deeply about how that you are making progress toward the indicators and to take that deliberate action to make those changes in your district. So my goal in this role is to help districts to move from always being identified to let's not be identified. Let's continue to reduce the number of districts that are non-compliant in these areas. So that's our goal with all of this. So you're going to complete a self-assessment online tool. You have to submit this information electronically, and we will give you that information after the holidays on where to access that online tool. It is not up and going yet. But again, in the process, the paper self-assessment will be up shortly, probably after the holidays as well. But you can go ahead and start this process by thinking about who do we need at the table, and then what data might we need to look at. So you can kind of start moving toward this, even though the self-assessment paper and online tool are not 100% ready yet. You can go ahead and start moving toward that direction. And then we will, at the State Department, will review and provide feedback. So we just want to make sure that your plan addresses the area that you've been identified and your professional development is a clear link. But if there's other questions and assistance that we can help you with, we are always ready to help you with that. So I had a question is, please can you restate where to find the PowerPoint? The PowerPoint is not up yet. It will be up hopefully by the end of this week. If not this week, it will be after Christmas. We will have it up on the State Department Special Ed website. It will be under a tab over on the right that says News and Memos. Once you go to the News and Memos page, if you scroll down, there is a section that says Trainings. It will be a link listed under the Training section on the News and Memo tab. Okay. And again, I can't restate this enough, professional development, there should be a clear link between your area of non-compliance, related right with your plan for improvement. We need a clear link in that. I don't want you identified for assessment, but decide we need some professional development on early childhood outcomes. It's got to be a clear link, guys, and we will kick it back if it's not a clear link, and we will be asking you to support why you selected that professional development. So we will be looking at that to make sure that this is a thoughtful process to help you to improve. And again, when you submit the online self-assessment online tool, you will be required to upload the title and description of your professional development, the date that you're going to be providing that, and then what is your intended audience that you are expecting to present this information to. And if you need help finding some professional development, we can certainly do that. There's information on the website that we can also direct you to help with that. For your on-site monitoring, your superintendent will receive a letter with the date of the scheduled on-site monitoring. And then we can certainly work with you guys as to what you need to do to be prepared for the on-site monitoring as well. After the on-site monitoring, within 45 days after we have been on site, we will generate a report and submit it to or send it to your superintendent and special ed director. And the report will detail a corrective action. So the corrective action will be a student-specific corrective action for the files for which we have looked at, and the deadline for that to be corrected. And then there's always a prong two to all of our monitorings, meaning once you've identified and we've learned through this on-site monitoring where we're having some difficulties, what our staff isn't understanding at the site level corrections, Then we're going to expect that you train all staff and make sure that from that point forward that they are providing student level IEPs and services compliant under IDEA. So we're looking for you to generate that and make that a system-wide compliance issue there to make sure that our IEPs and IDEA programs are compliant across all students, not just the students we look at. And then professional development. So in the report, it might talk about some professional development that we're expecting staff to participate in to gain some more skills and understanding of the expectations. And then we may ask you to review, revise district policies and your procedures. So those are some things that may be required for you to complete in your on-site monitoring report. So some district activities and dates to remember. January 15th is our data retreat webinar. Again, if you have not registered, for the data retreat? Webinar. Oh, that's right. Okay, so I'm getting ahead of myself again. So the webinar is going to be January 15th. We will be sending out information for you to register for that. Make sure that you do register. That is going to give you some vital information to help you to prepare for the data retreat. If you have not registered for the data retreat, which will take place January 24th and 25th, please do so as soon as possible. We, again, are looking for 2 people, a gen ed representative and a special ed representative at a minimum to participate in that. If you're not registering both a gen ed and a special ed, we will contact you guys to make sure that we get both of them at the table and at the data retreat. March 1st, your self-assessment online tool will be required to be completed and submitted. In that self-assessment will be your improvement plan, as well as your professional development that you have identified that you are going to provide to your staff, along with the date, the title, and the intended audience. From that point through May, you will implement your improvement activities, provide staff your professional development, and continue to review the appropriate data for improvement and compliance. So once you've completed your self-assessment, you've got your plan and all that, doesn't mean we're done. We've got to continue to implement and review the appropriate data to see if your plan is working. And then May 15th, on or before May 15th, you will need to submit professional development documentation and an initial plan review. Your initial plan review will be talking about how it is going so far for you to continue on with the compliance. So for us, on the state level, January through April, we will be reviewing the self-assessments online as they are being submitted. So if you submit it early, we're going to go ahead and look at that and look at your improvement plan. We're going to look at your professional development that you have submitted that you're going to provide. If we need to get in touch with you, we certainly will do that and make sure that we have a clear understanding of your plan and your professional development, and to talk about that if needed. March 15th, if you have not submitted your online self-assessment tool by March 1st, by March 15th, we will be sending out reminder emails for those that have not submitted to that point. Then continuing on through May, you're going to conduct your targeted on-site, or we will conduct our on-site monitoring and review professional development documentation as it's submitted. So if you complete your professional development by April 1st and you want to go ahead and submit it, we certainly encourage you to do so. Submit to us your agenda and your sign-in sheet, and we will certainly look at that. By May 30th, we're going to confirm completions of district activities. That's your deadline. And then summer, we're going to respond to districts that did not comply with the requirements in a timely manner. So we are really looking at districts to meet these required timelines. That's why we're giving you this information, so that you're fully aware of the deadlines for which you have for this designation. And now I'm going to hand it over to Ginger to talk about the areas of need. Thanks, Tina. So as we talked about earlier, self-assessments, professional development, improvement plans should focus on the major area of need identified in your DDP and determination so that you can improve. Our goal for this entire process is to provide you the support, guidance through various activities to develop plans to improve your districts and your students' outcomes. So we know it's quite a bit of work, but the intent is to assist you and guide you through an improvement process. So one thing I wanted to mention was that the self-assessments, improvement plans, we put the deadline at March 1 so that particularly for Level 3 districts, you will have time to go to the data retreat, learn a lot of great techniques and tools that you can use for root cause analysis, for data analysis, so that you can take that information and those skills and apply them to the self-assessment and improvement plan. So for Level 3 districts, we highly recommend that you wait to complete your self-assessments until after the data retreat so that you can use what you learn there and apply it in your documentation. So we're not going to require that you wait, but we do recommend that you do that so you can take advantage of the data retreat and its purpose. Last year, we held it in June, which was much too late for districts to use. This year, we're holding it in January with the purpose of providing you guys some information way ahead of time so that you can use it for improvement purposes. Okay, so areas of need. As we said earlier, there were 5 major areas of need that we identified: fiscal or risk, compliance, assessment, early childhood, and graduation and dropout or secondary outcomes. We're going to talk through each of those, and we're going to share how many Level 3 districts were identified for those particular areas. So if you have a question about that, it should be fairly apparent when you look at your determinations which indicators need the most work. But if that's not clear, we do have some districts that were identified or that should probably focus on at least a couple of different areas. And if that's the case, feel free to call and talk to us, and we can help you determine which area you might want to focus your self-assessment in. We do require, as Tina mentioned, that it be in an area that needs improvement. If, for example, you met target on graduation and dropout, you should not be doing the self-assessment on graduation and dropout. Okay? So with assessment, that's indicator 3C for reading and math. 3B is participation, 3C is proficiency. So it's the percent of students with disabilities graded proficient or advanced on the 2017 state assessments. Now these are grades 3 through 10, so it's not targeted just at the little kids, not just at high school. Make sure you consider the full range of students. And for good or bad, it's always reported a year behind. So we report the 2017 results in February 2018 to OSEP, and in our DDPs and determinations, we pull that February data to report to you in the fall. So we don't even have 2018 assessment data yet in our office. So that's why we have to put a year behind data on our determination. So unfortunately, it's always a little bit delayed. So we had 7 districts of Level 3 support for low assessment scores, and we recommend that those districts complete the assessment, self-assessment. So to focus on how can you improve student outcomes on your state assessments. I feel like I'm saying assessment a lot. Okay. In terms of data, the state scores, the state rates for achievement in spring 2017, 14.03% were proficient or advanced for reading, 14.75% were proficient or advanced for math. And these are the state averages for all students. Okay. Again, we do not have spring 2018 data yet, so we can't report that. We set new targets for the 2017 data to match those lower achievement rates. If you recall, and I'm sure you do, in spring 2017, the state implemented new state assessments. So we had to adjust those targets to meet the higher criteria and more advanced scoring for those exams.
So in 2017, the targets were 14.03 and 14.75%. For 2018, and this is the data from last spring, targets were 14.25%. Sorry, that was a flash. 14.25% and 15%. And for spring 2019, okay, so next semester, we expect to see districts meeting targets of 14.5% proficient in advanced for reading and 15.25% proficient or advanced for math. So as you can see, we are required federally to improve our targets every year, so we've advanced them very incrementally. But unfortunately, 2017 and 2018 have passed. You do have time now to think about how are we going to improve assessment scores this coming spring, okay, to meet those 2019 targets. Okay, the next area is early childhood. This is indicator 7. A1, B1, C1, so the ones in indicator 7 refer to the rate of improvement. The 2s refer to the rate of age equivalent scores, okay? So all we're looking at is, do students show improvement? So this is the percent of students aged 3 to 5 that show improvement on their EC outcome ratings. We compare the entry ratings to the exit ratings from the EC program. Now, when we talk about an EC program, it doesn't necessarily mean preschool. It doesn't mean anything like that. If a child is aged 3 through 5, all the way up until their 6th birthday, they are considered to be in early childhood programs, okay? So even if you have a kindergartner, you need to provide and complete their exit ratings for early childhood, or else you will be considered non-compliant because the data will not be submitted. It's up until the day they turn 6, okay? They do have to have at least 6 months of service, but you can go ahead and complete those. We screen those out if they don't. Okay, so this data is collected through the end-of-year data collection on July 1, and it's for the previous full school year. Our DDPs and determinations, therefore, are based on a future submission in February. We collected the data that's currently on your DDPs and determinations for last school year, and that's what's reported. So this is essentially the same year of data. For this area, we had 5 districts that had low ECO scores. To be honest, most of these, because no data was submitted, students didn't have their results, they weren't completed, that sort of thing. So, you know, this is one of those that we see some fairly straightforward methods of improvement. How do we monitor that these are completed? How do we check? Those kinds of things. We do have a report in advanced reporting in EdPlan that you can look at and see if students have their completed ECO scores. Now, all of those end-of-year reports, we'll be updating those at the end of the month for the coming spring. Currently, they're still looking at last year's school data. So we've had a delay in updating those, but we will get those done soon. Okay, so for early childhood, this year, 2018, our targets are 90%, 90.5, 89.75, and 91.75. So again, that's the percent that show improvement between entry and exit. Next year, for some reason, the targets jump 2 to 3%. Now, these were set probably 6 years ago, so this is way before any of our time. Stakeholders set these targets, and they decided that in 2019, we would be achieving at 93% improvement rates for all students 3 to 5. Fortunately, if you look at our state rates, the average state rates for this past year, we are close to those or passing those targets already. So it's not going to be, you know, don't worry, oh, wow, we have to improve 3% this year. We are already there as a state. So I know that your districts are low on these. That's why you're targeted for this. But it is achievable, and it is something that you can work toward improvement. Okay. So for graduation and dropout, we have 2 indicators that we look at, indicator 1 and indicator 2. Indicator 1 is the percent of students with disabilities in a 4-year cohort that are reported as graduated on the annual comprehensive exit report. So the comprehensive exit report is a district report submitted every November for the previous school year. So it's always a year behind. That data is shared with us by the Accountability Office, so we do not collect it separately. They collect that for all students, whether they graduate or don't graduate, and then they give that information to us, okay? So they collect it in November, it's reported in the February APR, and your DDPs and determinations show the data from that previous February, okay? So just this past month, the past year's graduation outcomes were reported to the state. So we don't have last year's data yet. We won't have it until February for graduation. For indicator 2, this is the percent of students with disabilities reported as dropped out on the annual special education exiting report. Okay, so we collect this through the end of year data collection around July 1, and it's for the previous full school year. So we collect that ourselves from EdPlan, and again, you have an exit report in EdPlan and advanced reporting that you can review. You can check your errors. You can check that every student has the correct exit code. If a student does not have the correct exit code, let's say you put unknown and later you learn that they have transferred to another district, that unknown will count against you. So make sure students are coded correctly for their exit reasons. Okay? So we had 0 districts that had low secondary results. Congratulations, you guys. You guys are doing well for graduation and dropout. We didn't see any concerns at level 3 in this area. So just quickly, graduation targets are always 87%, at least for the past few years and upcoming years. Our data does not reflect that. We are about 10 points below that target. So that is something that as a state we need to work toward, and that's one reason why we've included in the determination, so that we as a state can work toward improving in that area. For dropout, as you can see, the targets are decreasing from 17 to 16 to 15% annually. Unfortunately, our data is kind of going the opposite direction. So it's going from 16.6 to 17.3 this past year. Hopefully next year it falls. As districts work to improve and drop out, that we should see some improvement in that area back towards the target rates. Okay, so with finances, again, we had 0 districts identified for risk for level 3. That's great. Last year we had a couple that were considered moderate risk. This year we don't have any, so congratulations on that. Typically, it's for not meeting excess cost requirements or audit findings, something like that. So no one in level 3 will be doing anything with the fiscal self-assessment. For compliance, so if you recall on the determinations, there are 2 sections to that document. We have a set of compliance indicators and we have a set of performance indicators. So most districts are identified for level 2 or level 3 because of performance. We do have some this year that have been identified level 2 or level 3 because of compliance. Particularly, we have 2 districts identified because of non-compliance this year for level 3. Both of those districts are non-compliant in 3 or more areas, so that is of concern to us and something that we will be working with those districts to improve. So those districts that are identified not for performance but are identified for compliance will complete the GMS requirements as the self-assessment. So there isn't a separate self-assessment for these because, as you know, if you've been in there, the GMS requirements are pretty extensive. So that's going to serve as the self-assessment and the improvement plan. You will still need to identify PD and conduct PD on compliance. Any questions so far about those data elements? Okay. So a quick note, we have put the district data profile in GMS. If you go to GMS Access and open up the applications, look under IDEA, you will see the district data profile. We put this in here so you can have a digital version. So if you happen to lose your paper copy or something, you can find that here and review that online rather than worrying about where your paper copy is. Okay. Okay, so any other questions for me or Tina? Okay, I'm sure you'll have questions later. Please contact Felisa or Cheryl if you have questions about the process. They will be the ones contacting you about submissions. You should submit your documentation to them for PD, all of that kind of stuff. Contact them for self-assessments. They're taking care of the day-to-day work and district support. For the, if you have data questions, feel free to contact me. If you have questions generally about compliance and monitoring, contact Tina. She's very busy, but she will call you back when she can. So, or email. We're all great at email too. We're glad to answer emails. So if there are no more questions, then we look forward to talking to you soon and seeing you at the data retreat. Thank you.